Now, what is the ugly thing that happens when you get near a fraud, but you're not really in it? You're an auditor. The fraud happened. You're Arthur Anderson. How do you explain Enron? You have to take a very special defense. It's one that Bill knows well. It's called the stupid defense. You have to go, I was stupid. You got to pay a lawyer $500 an hour to show and prove just how stupid you are. Because if you're not stupid, what might you be? A co-conspirator. So you say to your lawyer, I don't want to look that dumb. He goes, oh, we got to make you look a lot dumber. You know the Beverly Hillbillies? Act like them. That's what we got to do. And you're paying me good money to make you look stupid. Because the smarter you are, the more it looks like that you're complicit. And you don't want that. You definitely don't want that. Remember what I said about Bubba? Jail, bad place, don't go. So if there's a guy, I call him the guy below Andy at Enron. Andy Fastow, CFO. There's a guy below him. He's got a name. And there's a guy below Andy. And there's a guy below the guy below Andy. He didn't get indicted. But the feds were looking at indicting 114 people from Enron. And what if you're number 113? Oh, damn. How do you protect yourself? I'm going to give you a tool that you can use when you get out there and start doing accounting. Every single day that you're an accountant, every day, spend 2 minutes. I call it the 2-minute drill. Spend 2 minutes doing some extra due diligence on something that's on your desk that you don't have to do, and don't do a normal accounting thing. Ask tier 2 and 3 questions about anything. You're not going to find anything, but make a journal entry. Send yourself an email. Make an entry of that every day. Now, what do you have at the end of 2 years? You'll have about 600 entries showing that you're the type of person that always looks for something extra, something different. And then when he knocks on your door and says, prove to me you're a good person, you go, I screwed up here. This is a mistake. We overlooked something. We're to blame. But we're not criminals, and here's why. Here's the kind of guy I am. I have had dozens of people send me emails and letters saying, I started doing that a few years ago, and boy, did it come in handy. One of the prosecutors looked me in the eye and said, we're convinced. And you could have been one of the 114 at Enron. And you could be totally innocent. And you know what? It ain't going to matter, because those 12 yo-yos and that jury are going to say you were there, you made millions of dollars. I've got a choice, fraud or not fraud, fraud. Because they're not going to like you. Because they know you get out of jury duty and they don't. Do the 2-minute drill. Do it religiously. Do it every single day. Now, you might be wondering, what does Mark mean by due diligence? You all know what it is. And since forget about being an auditor. I don't care how many hands went up. You know what the judge said in my civil case? A $4 billion fraud? He said, oh, by the way, to all the defense attorneys, there were 400 defense attorneys in my civil case. That's pretty good. Some of them were even defended. No. And he said, by the way, if this ever goes to trial, I'm going to tell the jury to disregard the subtle differences between a review and audit and what's the compilation. The subtle differences? That's like being a little bit pregnant. There's no, it is or it isn't. And they go, but Your Honor, that's our whole defense. He goes, I know it is, and you ain't going to get away with it. It was on your watch. You were there. You should have found it, and you didn't. Neener, neener, neener. Myself. No. Are there any questions? I'll answer anything. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And all I saw were the same invoices. And then one day we factored a deal, and something went wrong, and someone went to check on the job site, and it didn't exist. And so they came back to us and said, are you guys trying to defraud us? Well, we paid him off, and he went away. But that's when Barry told me that that one job was a fraud. He said, can you just make up a few pages to make it look good to the auditors? Because I was already taking the company public. I had already had Ernst on payroll. And I was going to do another L.A. Gear. And so I was real excited. And I said, in 46, I wish I knew what great character flaw. I've never broken a law before in my life. Well, when I was in college, I did inhale. Like my whole junior year. Both my junior years, as I remember. But other than that, and that stuff was $10 an ounce, so you can imagine how good it was. But I think somebody's mowed their lawn and gave it to me. But when I found out it was illegal, I'm a problem solver. I immediately didn't even think about it as a crime. I thought, how am I going to do this? Before I even said yes, I go, how would I do this? Well, I know how to do so. I can look at real documents and make up fake ones that look like it. I can do this. And I'm only going to do it once, and we're never going to do it again. And then that domino effect starts, and next thing you know, you're at WorldCom and Tyco, and you're lying. No, not at all. A man met me once and said, Mark, why do you only raise money? Real quickly, I had my own bookkeeping practice. I had 300 clients that I did taxes for, and they were all small businesses. And I got them credit lines. I got real good at getting people credit lines because the S&Ls had been deregulated. And we had a thing back then called the investment tax credit, the ITC, greatest tool known to mankind for stealing money. And somebody said, Mark, why do you always get credit lines? People have to pay that back. Why don't you get money you don't have to pay back? He said, I'm going to teach you how to do IPOs. And my learning experience was LA Gear. And it was extremely successful. They screwed the company up, but my part was perfect. And so I just went and did it for Z-Best. Anything, yeah. If I had a scanner, I wouldn't even be here now. I'd have been a billionaire. Are you kidding? If I had a scanner, oh my Lord. You got to be kidding. One time Barry Minko claimed that we got completion bonds on our jobs. So I went to the business library at Cal State Northridge, got a picture of a completion bond that had the word specimen written on it. It took me 4 hours to white out that word specimen. I put that brush back in the bottle so many times it flicked on me, I looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Also, I could then re-Xerox it, show it to an accountant for 10 seconds, and then put it away. Your story's right. We spent $2.5 million to lease and restore that building in San Diego, and in 8 days I walked the accountants through it. Why? Why would I spend $2.5 million? Because they're going to sign off on a thing that gets me $800 million, of which 80 of it's mine. I mean, remember, I get 10% of everything. So I was highly motivated, yes. I paid back. Here's what happened. Because I turned myself in, well, first let me explain something. I made about $19 million while I was at Z-Best legally. I raised money for movies. And so they said, here's what we're going to do, Mark. We're going to take that $19 million. That's your total penalty and your tax bill. The IRS is going away. You owe nothing when you get out of jail. I also had about $40 million in cash. They took all of that. I own 5 houses. They took all of that. I mean, I used to buy my girlfriend's houses. What a great date. So if your car broke down, I could, this is never going to happen again. Go get a car. I had a charge account at a Volkswagen dealership. Just show up, you're a pretty girl, they're going to give you a car and charge it to Mark. They took all the cars. They took all of the I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on jewelry. So they took all the money I made legally. That was my fine. They took all the money that I had illegally and just seized it. When I went to jail, I had $11. When I got out of jail, I had even less. So they took it all. And if I'd hid some, you think I'd tell you anyway? Yeah, it's the very back. Well, I don't mean to pick a fight, but I'm going to. No, I think there's more than enough time, and I think no matter what in your personal life's going, it's very easy. What happens is, one thing accountants are loath to do is to ask a question that the response might be, what, you don't trust me? And as long as you're afraid to do that, because I would go up to lawyers and accountants and bankers, and I would say, hey, look, mano y mano, you're not going to make me jump through all those hoops, right? Because we're men of the world, and we know what we're doing, and you know, blah, blah, blah. And then I would always put a fish hook in their mouth. I'd say, listen, I don't know if this is ethical, but what do they pay you at Ernst? What, $200,000-$300,000? I'll pay you $500,000. Now, I knew for a fact this guy was maybe making 50. But the minute I say 500, his ears shut. He just sees that big paycheck in the future when I hire him. And all the way up the ladder, I'm not going to let the top guys off the hook. We were a $2 million account. That's a lot of money back in those days. Mine was a $4 billion crime. I hate these new guys. They make mine look like nothing. Any other questions? Anything else? Yes. Well, it's hypothetical. I can surmise I'd have done them better. I'd have probably asked tier 2 questions of myself just to cover my own rear. You know, just like making it the bid to the penny. That was pretty stupid. I should have known that was kind of dumb. But I think what's important is, I went to college for 10 years, and one thing I learned very good, I'm excellent at, is doing research. I mean, I used to write term papers for all my fraternity brothers in subjects I know nothing about. I'd study it for like 20 hours, and then I could crank out a pretty good, B+ paper on something. And so I used what I call the wet paint method. And quite frankly, I was flattered when the government accountant said, your work is flawless. And when I got out of prison, investment bankers offered me jobs from New York the day I got out. And I said, well, why are you going to do this? They said, well, number one, they go, your methodologies with LA Gear and Z-Best were perfect. Just the paperwork was fake in Z-Best. They said, so you know how to do this. So that was a real temptation on my part, you know, to go back doing it again, but not illegally. The recidivism rate, the recidivism rate for white-collar guys is about 0.3%. We don't go back. We get the message. Bubba got to me real quick. I don't want to go back. And now I'm actually on the board of directors of a lot of companies, and they brag about me. They go, we've got a watchdog to make sure nothing will ever go wrong in our company. And it's kind of bizarre how you can, you know, turn it on its head. Yes. We got caught. A journalist was writing a thing that's commonly called a fluff piece. Let me explain to you real quick what a fluff piece is. A fluff piece is and this will be the last, I'll ask one more question after this. A fluff piece is, she was writing a story about these two bachelors, Barry and myself, who had cars and houses, and I was always up at the Playboy Mansion doing dumb stuff. And so it was going to be and I had Rolexes and Persian rugs and Ferraris and stuff. And I was just going to be this zany, you know, Charlie Sheen kind of guy. And she called the Secretary of State of California and said, I'm a journalist. I'm writing a story about this company, Z-Best, and I just want to call to see, I don't want egg on my face. Is there anything in their past or anything that's negative? Like, did they not pay their taxes on time or just anything? And the woman said, well, let me go check on them. She goes, well, according to our records, there is no construction company in California called Z-Best. And so suddenly this reporter realized something was wrong. She then went to all of my suppliers that I spent hundreds of millions of dollars with and found that they were all post office boxes. See, my confirmations got mailed back real quickly. Why? I filled them out. They never went to a real company. They came to me. I'd fill them out and send them right back with a note saying, and Mark's a genius. You know. So that's the answer. That a journalist started digging, and she didn't even know what she was looking for, and she caught us. So the next day, I pick up the newspaper. Instead of seeing a picture of me playing, you know, beach volleyball with a bunch of girls, it's like a mugshot. Z-Best is a fraud. And I went to the FBI that afternoon and said, well, here's who I am, and you're going to be looking for me. They go, we don't even know who you are. All they knew is what they read in the papers. We weren't under suspicion at all. It's like that great line in that John Wayne movie, The Duelist. He said, I don't worry about the professionals. It's that goddamn amateur that's going to screw you every time. It's a journalist. That's how it happens. It's like sales tax on artwork. It's something stupid. One last question. Yes? No? No. Going to prison is one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because it truly does do, for most people that are not career criminals, it is the biggest slap of reality in the world. You suddenly, for most white-collar guys who are used to giving orders, suddenly you're told every step what to do. You're strip searched, you're cavity searched, you're humiliated beyond words, and every part of your life is regimented. You hate it from the word go because you suddenly realize that money didn't mean damn. It meant nothing. Even when I had it, I didn't enjoy it much. I was too busy making more of it. And that's what everybody's always told me. They go, we had a game. We go, it's the way you keep score is the money. I bought girls' cars because I always had to break dates with them. They get mad at me. And I go, here's a car. Because I wasn't having fun. But I was on my way to that heart attack by the time you're 35 route, and suddenly you're put into a place where every single day you might be killed. I had a lot of death threats against me when I was in prison. You see horrible things around you, but you also know you're going to be away from your loved ones for 5 years. And that's when you sit back and you go, you know what matters to me now? My pet, my cat. Being able to get a taco when I want one. Being able to change my mind and say, no, I'm not going to go see this movie. I'll go see that one. And you really wake up and smell the coffee. The other thing is this. I thank God every day I didn't have a wife. I think I had like 4 fiancées, but I didn't have any wives. And because every marriage I saw in prison was destroyed. And it made the guys serving their time do a really hard time. My time went by like that. I read 700 books. I taught 84 guys how to read. You had to make an appointment to see me when I was in prison. And I was the town driver for the warden, so I got to get out, which means I could maybe accidentally bump into somebody I know in town.